Today we will be discussing about the importance of scales, the prominency of the scales in mapping part, how do we use the scales is an important task. Scales, when we speak about the scales, we need to understand what a scale is. Importantly, we speak about the scale in our schools, the physical scale, the metal scale or the wooden scale we generally use to draw the lines and to measure the centimeters or inches or whatever we require. Simultaneously, apart from scales, we have set squares also to draw the perpendiculars and all those things. But here we are not talking about that particular scale. We are talking about the geographical scale, the scale that is important to prepare and draw the map. Now, when we come to the map, we have to be very clear understanding of the map. What is a map? A map is a graphical representation of the earth as a whole or part of it. We can say that the complete world or the complete earth can be represented on the map. To represent this particular complete earth on the map, we require the projections. Projections play a vital role in dealing it. So, what is a map? A map is a graphical representation, as I said. The complete earth has to be transformed on a flat scale on the map, on a paper or on a sheet. So, to transform this particular whole earth, we require the 3-dimensional pattern to be converted into 2-dimensional pattern, and this 2-dimensional pattern is called as a map. When we speak about the map is having 4 important elements. The first one is the title, the second one is the scale, the third one is the latitudes and longitudes, and the fourth one is the legend. So, out of these 4 important and prominent elements, today we will be discussing most predominantly about the importance of scales. What are these scales? Why these scales are important with reference to the map. So, for example, the scale plays a vital importance in the preparation of the map or in the production of the map. The cartographer uses this particular scale to prepare a map. Now, who is a cartographer? We can say a cartographer is a person who generates the map with the help of the scale. So, the scale, before we go into the scale, we need to understand why the scale is being used. Not only in the mapping part, in general also we need to understand why a scale is important. For example, as I said earlier, to bring this complete earth in the form of a map on the paper, we require the huge 40,000 kilometers earth to reduce into the A4 size paper. That means, the earth we are reducing it or the part of the earth we are reducing it. Simultaneously, when we want to study or analyze the microorganism, we will zoom out or will zoom in the details of this particular microorganisms, say amoeba or unicellular organism, whatever. We cannot study the microorganisms as they are. We need to zoom in and see all those things, for which we require the scale. So, for microorganisms we are using the scale to enhance the diagram of that particular microorganism. Likewise, for a map for a earth, we are reducing the earth into A4 size paper or a A3 size paper or A0 size paper on a wall mount. So, for to increase or reduce the size of anything, we require a scale. Now, what is a scale? When we define a scale, we have to see that what is a scale. A scale is a proportion of 2 points on the map to the corresponding 2 points on the ground. So, when we see that 2 consecutive points on the map should be represented on the ground. So, the proportion of this particular map and ground reality is the scale. Now, there are different types of scales. Before going into the types of scales, we need to consider what a scale is that in the form of length, in the form of weight, in the form of mass, in the form of temperature measurement. These are the units of measurement. So, the units of measurement is also important for us. What are these units of measurement? When we speak about the units of measurement, we have length. In some parts of the world, the inches and miles are considered as a unit of measurement to length, and in some countries we use the centimeters, millimeters and kilometers, meters and kilometers. These are the units of measurement. So, for everything there is a scale is involved, whether it is a volume, whether it is a mass, whether it is a length, we use a scale. For example, for mass we use kilogram, and for example, time we use minutes, seconds and hours, and for example, electricity we use ampere. For example, temperature we use Celsius as well as Fahrenheit as well as Kelvin for temperature. At the same time, for a substance the unit of measurement is a mole. Simultaneously, for the illumination of light we use the unit of measurement as candela. So, these are the different types of measurements that are being used, out of which 4 are very much important: the length, the weight, the time and volume. These are the 4. So, generally we bifurcate these things into 2 units, imperial unit as well as metric unit. Now, what is imperial unit? When we speak about the imperial unit, it is the inch, feet, yard and miles. The same thing when we speak in the metric units, it is the millimeter, centimeter, meter and kilometers. So, this is with regarding to length. So, most of the countries of the world use metric system, metric units. Only 1 or 2 countries like Myanmar and United States of America, the length or the speed of the vehicles is being used with the help of these miles per kilometer, whereas in India we use kilometers per hour. So, these are the things. In America they use miles per hour, in India we use kilometers per hour. So, second unit is the weight. Weight in imperial unit it is called ounces and pounds, whereas we use grams and kilograms. Then time is common in imperial unit as well as metric unit. In imperial unit it is minutes, seconds and hours, whereas in metric system also it is seconds, minutes and hours. So, there is no difference between imperial unit as well as the metric unit when we speak about the time. And the volume, it is the ounces and gallons and millimeters and liters. So, these are the units of measurement. So, these units of measurements, apart from that, when we speak about map with reference to the scale. So, map is also a drawing and there are other drawings also. What could be the other drawings? So, we will have a look about it. For example, when we speak about a map, it is a map which is having a title, like for example, relief map, political map, drainage map, agriculture map. These are the different types of maps. Apart from topographical maps, topographical maps are being prepared by Survey of India. They do land survey and they prepare the maps. So, map is with reference to 4 important elements. Number 1 is title, scale, legend with reference to latitudes and longitudes, graticules we call it as generally. So, second one, when we speak about the graph, which is also a drawing, graph is generally used by the statisticians, mathematical calculations or the analysis of the statistical data. They represented with the help of point or with the help of line or with the help of bar or with the help of cumulative bars, that is compound bars or the histograms generally we speak, and at the end we have a pie chart. The pie chart is a composition in the form of percentages. Then the third one is the chart. The chart is also a drawing wherein the water features are predominantly present. These are being used by the navigational people or the people who are travelers, sea travelers, they use with the help of nautical miles. So, this is a chart where water features are predominantly being used. The other one is the diagram of living things and non-living things. What are those living things? For example, when we speak about the diagram of any animal, maybe tiger, leopard or microorganisms like amoeba, that is just a diagram visualizing the living things. And at the same time, when we speak about the drawings of the non-living things, the architects, the automobile engineers or the aircraft engineers, they use this particular diagrams, the important phenomena. Even the compressor of the computer is the diagram, the output of it. So, the next one is the layout. When we speak about the layout, it is also a drawing, survey layouts or forest layouts or the barren lands layout, ninefold classification of the agriculture or the classification of lands, land use maps. These are all the bigger layouts. Simultaneously, when we come to the smaller units of diagrams, that is a plan of a house, plan of a building, plan of a smaller area, plan of an office. So, these are all the plans. So, these are not maps, these are smaller in size, but it is very much clear that it is not to scale. So, wherever there is a no scale, it is not at all being considered as a map. Map is considered only with reference to scale and the other important elements. Apart from these things, what all we have discussed or we have talked about, we will also see the freehand sketch drawing. What is a sketch? It is a pencil drawing. Like for example, we can draw with the pencil with the shades and all those things, onion, ginger, and it is a drawing. It is only visualization of an item in the form of drawing kept on a piece of paper. Then we have notional drawings also. Notional drawings are the freehand drawings, especially when we conduct a survey. For example, when we conduct a census survey, the enumerators are being asked to draw the houses, kacha houses and the paka houses. These kacha houses and paka houses, the enumerators will draw, taking into his own visualizing that there is a lake or a stream or a canal, he will draw, but that is a freehand drawing, that is called layout maps, layout sketches, not the maps. These things are predominant for the surveys, small surveys. Drawing, in other words, to say anything that is drawn, but when we speak about the map, a scale is a predominant factor that acts into it. Now, the definition of a scale, when we speak about what is a scale, we need to define what is a scale. A scale is considered as a proportion of between 2 points on the map to the same consecutive 2 points on the ground. So, the scale refers what all that is available on the ground is reflected onto the map, and the proportion between these two is the scale. Scale on the map shows the size of the area. Scale on the map indicates the distance between 2 points on the map to the distance between on the ground. The ratio is the distance, and at the same time it tells the proportion between two sets of dimensions. So, the measurements we know, different types of measurements, different types of scales. Now, we will be discussing the pattern that is being represented on the map. So, generally there are three types of scales. Number 1, verbal scale or the statement scale. If you look at the maps, at the bottom or on the top, it is very much clearly written like 1 centimeter is equal to 1 kilometer, or else 1 inch is equal to 1 mile. So, the verbal statement, it is represented in the form of a written text, 1 centimeter is equal to 1 kilometer. That is one type of scale that we consider it as a first form of scale, that is verbal or statement scale. The second one is the ratio scale or proportionate scale, that is represented on the map as 1 is to 1 kilometer or 1 is to 1000 or 10,000. So, what does that mean? Means 1 centimeter on the map is equal to so and so centimeters on the ground, or in other words to say 1 inch on the map is equal to so and so inches on the ground. So, this we call it as ratio. So, 1 is to 1000 or 1 is to 10,000 or 1 is to 10,000 could be 1 centimeter or so and so centimeters, or 1 inch on the map is equal to so and so inches on the ground. So, this is the second type of scale that we call it as ratio scale. Now, the third part is the graphical scale. This is predominantly available on the Survey of India topo sheets, or in some of the maps also it is being represented. The north direction is also very much important in this. The maps that are being provided or produced either in the northern hemisphere or in the southern hemisphere, the northern direction will always be placing to the north pole itself. So, the graphical scale is a scale which is in the form of a diagram, bifurcated into divisions and subdivisions. So, the subdivisions are less than 1 centimeter or divisions in the form of kilometers, 20 kilometers, 40 kilometers, 60 kilometers, 80 kilometers and 100 kilometers, and behind that. So, the graphical scale will be having two types of representations, one in the form of kilometers and the other one in the form of miles also. At one particular side of this particular graphical scale, we can denote the kilometers, and the other side we can denote miles as well. So, these are the three important scales that are available or displayed on the map. One is verbal or statement scale, second one is ratio scale, third one is graphical scale. Apart from these things, there is another scale called as variable scale. This particular variable scale differs from area to area. For example, when we speak that the circumference of the earth is 40,000 kilometers, but it is not so when we move from the equator to the north pole or to the south pole. The distance between this particular 1 degree is 110 kilometers at the equator. Simultaneously, when we move from the equator to the poles, the distance between the longitudes goes on decrease. So, the variation between the equator or the bulging part of the earth to the polar regions differ. So, hence for this particular reason we use the variable scale, and apart from this scale there are other scales which are of not used in geography, but which are being used by the statistical cadre people, that is the nominal scale, the ordinal scale, the interval scale and the ratio scale. So, these are the different parameters of scales that are being used. For example, if we use the variable scale in different categories, for example, when we look into the climatic part, we speak the climate as a area of bigger in region that can be used for globally or continentally, that we call it as variable scale for climate. For example, apart from climate, this can also be used for landscapes and local and regional and size also. So, these are the variable scale that can be used with different areas like continents as well as globally. Now, the scale that is being used, what is the importance of scale in preparation of map or preparation of a geography? When we look into this particular aspect, predominantly the scale is used for the analysis of the data that is present. Maybe it is a physical data or a cultural data. For example, the mountains, when we speak about the contours represent the elevation, height of a particular place. When these contours are close together, that means the area is very much inclined, or it can be even a cliff. So, if these contours are scattered, then we can say that that particular area is having a gentle steep, not inclined, but gentle. Or we can even consider the analysis for the buildings as well as the roads. And second important uses of scale is the accuracy of the landmark. Suppose Charminar is located at particular point of with the help of latitudes and longitudes, it will be there only. The network of latitudes and longitudes will help us to identify, for which the scale plays an important role. That means, the accuracy of the area can be detected by using the scale. The geometrical presentation is the third important point, with distance, elevation, three dimensional elevation and the structure of that particular thing. So, the time management is also important. For example, for every surveyor or for every researcher, with the help of the map, he can come to a conclusion of his analysis. He need not go to the field and do the surveys very frequently, not necessary. When once the map is prepared, cleared, so he can avoid the consumption of the time. So, the time management plays a vital role over here using the scale in the map. The last but not the least, this particular scale is also useful for the tourist and the visitors. Suppose for example, a navigator or a tourist or a person visitor wanted to visit a particular place, he can use with this help of the map. When the scale is there, it indicates how far it is, what is the length of this particular coastline, or what is the area of the zoological park that is present, or any kind of park or any kind of lake, what is the area of that. So, the visitor or the researcher or the tourist, the introduction of this particular scale will help them. Simultaneously, when we look about the advantages and disadvantages of the scales in a map, there are advantages also, but very few disadvantages are also there. Now, we will discuss about the advantages of it. Predominantly, there are four important advantages for the presence of this particular scale onto the map. The importance is that the linear and aerial, the distance can be measured very much accurately. When we speak about the distance, for example, I would like to say that from Hyderabad to Delhi, the road distance is different from the aerial distance. So, the road distance is all along the highway, we can clearly see the distance. For example, when we fly from Hyderabad to Delhi, the pilot will clearly say the aerial distance. No doubt, he is covering the road distance also, but the aerial distance is different from the road distance. Aerial distance generally will be the shortest route, because it is the direct point from the destination to that of the origination. So, that is one important thing. Second important thing is that easy to convert. The scales can be easy to convert from verbal scale to refraction scale. It is valid even when the map is enlarged or reduced. The maps can be enlarged and reduced. For example, when I say 1:10,000, it will be the same when you zoom in or zoom out. So, that is one advantage, and the scale can be shown in the form of miles as well as in the form of kilometers. So, these are the advantages. Now, when we come back to the disadvantages, we can see that map is of two dimensional only, whereas the real earth is of three dimensional pattern. The elevation, mountain, plains, plateaus is a three dimensional. We cannot bring the three dimensional pattern onto the two dimensional paper. That is one important disadvantages. However, the technology with the elevation models we can bring back, but on a map it is not possible. This is one of the prominent disadvantages. All the maps, there are distortions because of the projections. So, the projections differ from area to area, and for example, the statement scale, that is when we zoom in, the statement of 1 centimeter is equal to 1 kilometer will not change. So, that is another disadvantage of it. So, when we speak about the conversion of scale, the statement scale can be converted to refraction scale, as well as the refraction scale can be converted into scale. For example, the inch to feet can be converted with the help of the calculations. Likewise, from inch to centimeters, millimeters and kilometers can also be converted, and vice versa back also. That means, the kilometers can be converted into inches, as well as the kilometers can be converted to miles can be converted to centimeters as well. So, when we speak about the large scale map and the small scale map, here I would like to emphasize that the large scale map is a map which is showing larger details, whereas the area of the map will be smaller. On the other side, when we speak about the small scale map, the area will be more and the details will be less. For example, a small mandal map is a large scale map, whereas a district map is a small scale map. These are the two references we can say. Otherwise, in other words to say, the state map is a large scale map when compared to the national map or the India map or the political map. So, the large scale maps will be showing larger details. For example, in a large scale map, the post office, telegraph office, hospitals, colleges can be shown in a large scale map, whereas in a district map this cannot be shown, because if we show them, there will be a legibility is missing, the clumsiness will be there. So, the small scale map will be more area in size, but less details will be shown. So, the next part is that uses of scale in maps. Actual size of the area can be detected with the use of scale in a map, and for a map it is mandatory that the scale is important. Scale is compulsory. Without the scale, maps cannot be produced. Even though if any political map is produced without the scale, it is not considered as a map, it is just considered as a diagram or a freehand drawing. Only with the help of latitudes and longitudes, and with the help of latitudes, this scale is mandatory for a map. And for enlargement and reduction, the scale is important. How much 10% or 20% zoom in or zoom out, it is important. So, distance between any 2 points can also be measured with the help of this. So, the importance of scale in mapping part is very much important. A map cannot be drawn and it is incomplete without a scale. Scale is important for determining the length, width of any region. Scale is valuable in determining the cost of the building. Scale updates the recent changes that takes place in this particular map. A map user will understand with the help of the scale, he can understand the details of all the conditions or the prevailing items that are present in a map. Scale prevents the confusion and provides the factual information. So, scale is a must for a map. The importance of scale is very much necessary for the map. Thank you very much and all the best for you.